Today, I'm going to talk about seeking approval and why so many people are raised to be addicted to approval in one form or the other. And I'm going to go through a few examples of seeking approval that are really prevalent and structure our lives. There's a few of them. And I'm not saying all of these venues of seeking approval are always unhealthy or always 100% bad. But when we're desperate, like we have to do X, Y, and Z, then it becomes toxic. So number one is the belief that as a woman, I have to get married and have a family. And this can happen with men too, depending on which culture they're coming from. Their parents could be pressuring them to get married and have children. It's like this belief where you must do it or else you're going to die alone. You're not going to have any kids to take care of you when you're elderly, or you're not going to have a fulfilling dream life if you don't get married. And I have no problems with marriage when people really want to be together and they're really conscious and they treat each other with respect. But if you have this attitude as a woman, like, oh, my clock is ticking, I have to get married by X, Y, Z time in order to have a baby, or some sort of belief like that, the problem with that is that opens up the possibility that you just jump into a marriage that's totally toxic and abusive. And that is one of the worst life decisions that you can make. And then if you have a child in that abusive, toxic marriage, you're connected with that narcissistic person for the rest of your life, and it's just not worth it. It's not worth it to force yourself into a marriage or having children if it's not right. Okay, so here's method number two that people kind of get themselves into toxic, abusive, approval-seeking situations. And that's when they're being raised in elementary school to follow the teachers, and then they're raised in high school to apply to university, and then you go through the university system where you're trained to find a certain kind of job, and then you go into the job market, and then you get said job and you have to follow a boss. That whole system is, I'm not saying it's completely wrong or bad, but you have to not take it to heart so much and remember your own power. Remember that you always have the option to start your own business and do your own thing, and that you don't need anybody's approval or anybody's go ahead to start your own business or tell you that you're an expert. Especially for women, this is really critical advice. We really have to believe in ourselves. We have to take power over our own careers and our own lives. And especially if there's like an authority figure of a gentleman who is our boss, we need to be very cautious about that and not take anything the boss says to heart about who we are as a person. That said, that doesn't mean you can't work a stable job if that gives you some stability and some independence, and that lets you have your own life and not feel forced into a marriage, which is probably the primary area number one where we get caught in narcissistic relationships. I say it's better to have a job and have that independence. Just don't take anything that happens too seriously. Don't go looking for anybody's approval while you're there. Just do what you do with a lot of love and don't take it too personally. And it's the same with the university system, Again, that's an approval-seeking system. It's like references to get into the next school, and I've been there and gotten the reference letters from professors and stuff. And I'm not saying that all the professors are bad, or I'm just saying getting a university degree, because I've obviously gotten two. That can be a very positive experience. Again, it can create independence and can create intelligence in your life and give you more skills to go out in the world and feel confident. It's just that you don't want to take any of those experiences that you have in university too seriously, because even the professors who are guiding you come from a fairly sheltered life experience. They may not have that much experience out in the real world. And then when you even do get out into the real world and you experience a specific boss, again, it's a bit more real, but at the same time, they have their real experience in a very specific area. And it's possible you may be developing talent and your gifts in an area that's new and upcoming. That happens all the time. And so sometimes bosses can only help you so much as well. So those are two big areas where we seek approval. And then I think the third would be from our parents. That's a big one where we try to please our parents by having a certain job or by having a certain house, getting a mortgage, therefore you are successful. And there's nothing wrong with getting a house or a mortgage, but it's not necessary in order to have a good life, you know? So you shouldn't trap yourself in that or force yourself into that out of desperation. You may end up with a really crappy house, and I've seen that with people from my generation where they just felt they have to have a house of any kind, and then they buy a house in a really shitty area that's dangerous, or there's a lot of loud traffic and you can't sleep there, or the house is falling apart. And it's not always wise to buy a house and jump into that commitment unless the house is really, really right for you and it's a good house, you know? You should never force yourself to do that, or even if you get a good house, you shouldn't force yourself into millions of dollars in debt if you don't want to be working for the rest of your life, you know, depending on what house it is. So I hope that all made sense. Don't go seeking approval, you know. You don't need anybody's approval, including the approval of your parents. Give the approval to yourself first, especially if you're a woman. Give that approval to yourself first, and don't worry about whatever boss, mom, or partner has to say. I hope you're all having a great day, and take care. Bye now.